just like Mickey Cameron, we are back. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to episode 2 of Oh No No No, the Raith Rovers podcast. Once again, I am your host for this episode. I'm Duncan Cameron. But joining me today, we have the scorer of the greatest goal that the North End Starks Park has ever seen. It's Iain Latto. Iain, how are you?
Very well, Duncan. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We've got someone who thought it was a good idea to bring a tangerine-coloured mug to an episode about Dundee United. It's Christina Beattie. Hiya, Christina.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. We have the only man with a contact book of ex-Rovers players to rival John Greer's. Blair Hopcroft's here. How are you, Blair?
Very well, mate. Thank you.
Excellent. And the Scott Brown of this podcast, it's the skipper, Robbie Weir. How are you, Robbie?
I'm excellent, Duncan.
Excellent. So, without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the Damien Castelnuovo derby. So the Rovers are home to Dundee United on Saturday. Loads to talk about. And I think we'll go to Blair first of all, if you want to kick us off with your thoughts on how you think Rovers might line up and how you see this one going.
Yeah, I think it's all gonna hinge on Keith Watson, to be honest, in terms of how we line up. I can see it being very similar to Saturday. The lineup this season's kind of obviously been pretty static. And I listened to obviously episode 1, and you guys were talking about the kind of midfield and all of that kind of thing. And I think for Saturday, it's one of those games where the two holding midfielders are probably going to be quite important. My worry is obviously without Keith Watson, you've got Scott Brown in at centre half. So yeah, it's a funny one. I think if Keith Watson plays, Scott Brown back in the midfield to me makes sense. Those two holding midfielders kind of strengthen the middle of the park. But listening to Ian Murray's interview, it doesn't sound massively promising, but I think that'll be the turning point, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That defence that we've got at the moment, it really is the distance between the first pick for every position and second pick is pretty huge.
Nice.
We've really got one main left back, one main right back, two senior centre half. So
I kind of wondered if he would do the thing on Saturday. I wondered without Keith Watson, I kind of thought he might put Dick in at centre half and play McGill at left back, just to keep the middle as kind of solid as we could. I mean, Scott Brown did a good job, but I don't know if we losing him in the midfield's a massive loss given how he's played for us.
Sounds like I think he fancied that at Somerset because he wanted to get those extra attacking players on. But as you say, you'd think up against Dundee United, different proposition.
Yeah.
You then it's one holding midfielder too much of a risk. Iain, what are you thinking about this one?
I'm intrigued to see what the kind of front four is going to be. I know we've kind of spoke about the defence and the kind of holding two midfielders there, but it's like a weekly thing just now. It's the Larry David gif every time. I'm kind of thinking about what the front four is going to be. I'm swithering. Is it Smith or Stanton or Vaughan? Is it going to be Mullen out wide? Or I would like to see Hamilton play. I'm a massive fan of Hamilton. I'd like to see him at 9 with Stanton in behind, Easton off the left and Smith off the right. But just kind of thinking about how well we did last week, I wonder if Hamilton might miss out, and I wonder if Vaughan might play. Yes. This is the first time I think in my entire kind of Raith Rovers sporting career where I don't think we've got a best 11. I think we've got a very good squad, and I don't think the quality drops off at all when we make any substitutions. So if you think back to last season, you're like, oh God, Connolly's out. Who's going to play? It was a real quandary. But I think this year you could pretty much take your pick, and I think having that strength and depth, it's obviously fantastic. Make the subs late on in the game and change the game in your favour. So Dundee United, as you mentioned, are a different proposition to probably anything that we've come up against so far. Like they've got so much quality through their team. So I would like to say that we're going to win, but I would absolutely take a draw. Absolutely.
I think that the point you made about the depth, Craig Cairns had an article in the Courier yesterday that was very, very similar. And I think the point he made is undeniable, which is Dundee United's starting 11 is almost certainly the best in the division by a distance. But when you look at their options off the bench from Saturday there when they beat Queen's Park, not a lot there at all. The striker they brought on for Tony Watt, I literally cannot remember his name. I'd never heard of him before. So not a huge amount of depth there. So it does give you an option. I wonder if actually, to kind of combine those last 2 points, I wonder if you might not drop Stanton back into the midfield too, and actually keep Brown at centre half, play Stanton next to Byrne, and then it's one less attacking midfielder he needs to worry about leaving out.
Yeah, I mean, I am slightly more optimistic about Watson's prospects. I think Murray might just be keeping his cards close to his chest. You know, if Dundee United think that they're going to be up against Brown at centre half, and then suddenly Keith Watson's playing, that's a completely different game. So there is certainly a possibility for that. So I am slightly more positive, with a more positive outlook on that than certainly you guys were.
Robbie, what about you? What are you thinking to this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. A lot of tickets sold so far. We're looking, clubs obviously just released that it's just under 6,000, which is I think is our third highest in sort of like the newest era, after 2 games against Rangers. So really, it shows the sort of volume of support from both sides that are bringing. Interesting because obviously, while we've got Keith Watson out, they're missing potentially Lewis Moult as well, who's just an exceptionally good forward, who's not had his injury issues, obviously, in the past and a half. But yeah, just in general, you look at the players that they've got, Glenn Middleton, even the younger lads, like they've obviously had a few younger players like Fotheringham and Glass that seem to have sort of stood out in recent times. So yeah, just really interesting game of football. I think it will be quite a tight affair. I know I said on Sunday that I think it will be a 1-0 win through Dylan Easton, but again, that's very much heart ruling head. And yeah, just excited because I think, again, you look at the games for last season and we never really had an opportunity to get any sort of big fixtures like this, top of the table clashes, just due to the situation at the club and sort of how restricted we were in the players. This is just a game that everyone can really get behind, and it's just great for everyone involved to have that opportunity, regardless of how the result goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on that point, you said there, Glenn Middleton and younger lads. Glenn Middleton's only 23. Inexplicably, he's only 23. Feels like he's been around forever. Yeah.
Wow.
He's like the anti-Adam Lallana, where they said that he was promising until he was about 34.
What a unique category to fall into.
I saw the other day. I was like 23. That must be a typo. And we swapped around. But anyway, sorry, that's not important. That's just a thing I noticed. Christina, I think you've got a statistic or two for us on this one.
So we've played Dundee United back in 2006 in the Championship twice, and both times it was a draw. The first time was 2-2 and the second time was 0-0. And then we played them again in 2017. They beat us 3-0, we beat them 2-1, and then they beat us 2-0 again. So as far as the Championship goes, it's pretty even. That was back then. This season, we've both won 5 games. They've lost none. We've lost 1. And they've got 4 clean sheets. We've only got 2. However, my prediction for Saturday is that we're going to win 3-0.
Excellent. Good.
See, just to jump in there, sorry, Christina, that's those seasons when they were in the Championship and we were there at the same time. It's just like a black hole for me. I remember the 2-2 game up at Tannadice, and I remember Kevin Cuthbert getting injured. Other than that, I cannot remember a fucking thing about that. Like,
I remember chanting Gary Locke's name.
I was going to say the same thing. I was fully Gary Locke pilled up at Tannadice. Yeah. It's just like, this is amazing and everything's going to be brilliant forever.
Because it was Ray McKinnon, wasn't it? It was the season Ray McKinnon does for United.
Yeah. Jordan Thompson scored an absolute belter.
And so did
Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah. 2 screamers.
I think that might have been a collective fever dream, because none of the things we've just said sound right.
No.
None of those things happened again. Gary Locke possibly imagined that, and we were all just along for the ride.
Must have been about the time that Scott Roberts scored a goal from about 30 yards, and then we went to Falkirk and won like 4-2 or 4-1, I think it was. And Davidson absolutely marked. Playing at right back marked Miles Hippolyte out the game, but other than that, it just went downhill from there, didn't it? It's just like,
Aye, that was that. I really enjoyed that game at Tannadice, but yeah, I think probably notable. Dundee United just said that 4 clean sheets so far. All 3 of their away games yet to concede a goal, which is pretty impressive. I think that's probably a bit of an indicator as to how they're going to get along this season. I think and I don't think this bodes particularly well for us, I have to be honest. I think they're going to struggle against stuffier teams, and they're going to be better going toe to toe. I think if you look at the players they've got, I don't know if anybody saw the highlights of the game against Queen's Park, which I don't know how much you can judge against Queen's Park at the moment. They seem intent on just being ludicrously open, but loads of play down the wings, really kind of quick football, and I think that's what we want to be. And I wonder if it might not end up being a very, very open game in a case of who scores first on Saturday to really go and take it. Because
mention about the clean sheet thing is, though, I feel like I wanted to mention Dubrovsky because I think since we've seen him since the beginning of the season, I feel like he's really, really coming into his own now, and I feel like Saturday is going to be his coming to the Rovers moment. I feel like
I don't know if there's such a thing as a podcaster's curse, but if there is, that sounded like it to me.
No, I hope he doesn't jinx me now that I've just said that, but I feel like he's definitely improved massively.
Yeah, and I think I think I said this on the other on Sunday's podcast, but he's getting a chance to settle in with the defence now, and that's massive for goalkeepers of any level of experience. But it almost like he needed that mistake against Cali Thistle or Queen's Park. I forget now. Queen's Park, just to get out of his system. Because it felt like it was coming and everyone was waiting on it, but he recovered from it really well. So
I think I'm really positive about the way that he has bounced back. I much like everybody else, was delighted when he signed. I thought, like that he came with an absolutely glowing references from all his kind of previous sides. And then quite quickly, I think within probably by the end of the pre-season, certainly by the League Cup games, you're kind of thinking like, this guy's got a mistake in him, like he really does. But he's such a lovable guy, and he's like, like he's the sort of guy that you want to do well so much. He's so involved, and I'm sure I read he moved to Kirkcaldy because he wants to get involved in the town, and I just want him to do so well. But the way he bounced back from that mistake has been fantastic. Do you know what I mean? He really has made so many good saves since then. Kicking could be slightly better, but I'm more than happy to overlook that. Like I've got absolutely no qualms with the occasional goal kick going out for a shy on the halfway line if that's what the payoff is.
Yeah, I think the team learns to adapt to that kind of stuff as well. On you go, Blair.
I was going to say he's I just think he's an enigma. Honestly, like he came in, and for me at the beginning, I was actually genuinely worried. The first couple of times I saw him, I thought same thing. It's that thing if he's got a mistake. But for me, it was like when the mistake happens, it's going to be on Sky Sports. It's going to be one of those mistakes. Like, you know what I mean? He's not just going to like it slip underneath him. Like he's going to kick it off the back of somebody's head and it's going to go in the goal or something really ridiculous. But the thing that worried me most about him was actually all the things that everybody loves about him. It's that love of the fans. It had massive John Fred Eriksson vibes about it. Like, man of the people, loves the kids, waving at them all as he comes out and stuff. And I was just like, just do your job. Just keep going. Like,
never ends well.
You didn't need to give them your gloves. Like, just you keep your gloves. Just
see that when he did make that big mistake and he was turning around to the fans giving it all, I'm really, really sorry. I'm like, turn around to your team and say sorry, for God's sake. So I'm totally on that. Like, he made me quite nervous to begin with because we're obviously used to Jamie McDonald sort of style for a long time. And then in comes Dubrovsky and he's a total, he's a character.
I think he was probably getting an absolute bodying from the rest of his teammates. It's probably why he was looking at us, to be honest. Like, Watson and Ewan Murray were probably on the verge of throttling him at that point. So I think we were probably a better option than that.
You're absolutely right. You could write a list as long as your arm of these guys who come in, and everybody just wants them to do really well. Like Nando Mendy as well. Yeah, you're like, all I want is for you to be a success, and it never ends well. But to be fair, I think I think Kev Dabrowski's already surpassed the combined achievements of John Fredrickson and Nando Mendy. As much as I love them both.
He's funny as well, because I was going to say he's the only player in football, and not just goalkeeper. He might be the only no-footed player I've ever seen. So he kicks the ball, and I feel like I'm slagging him off. I genuinely love the guy.
Pretty brutal.
If you watch him when he kicks the ball, and I play a bit of football, and I am not good in any way, shape, or form, and I am very right-footed. So when I kick the ball with my left foot, I look really uncomfortable. Like the hands come out, and he seems to do that with both feet. I've never seen anything like it in my life. He just doesn't look comfortable. It's like I don't know if his foot's too big and he's worried he's not going to get it underneath the ball.
Kevin, if you're listening, I didn't give a fuck. I still love you, man. Just be you.
I just think it's incredibly brave to be that mean about somebody who's that big. Wouldn't it be me? But I think the big part of this game is going to be, as you said, the fitness of the players that are doubtful on both sides. Louis Moult would make a huge difference to Dundee United. I think there's a lot of teams in the Championship who have that kind of number 9 who can make a difference at any time. Even some of the sides that aren't, have been in great form up to this point this season. I think Ayr United did really well to bring in Anton Dowds. Mm-hmm. I think had they not done that, I think they'd be in real trouble. But you saw on Saturday, all right, they still get beat, but Dowds scored that goal, came out of nowhere. When we played Cali Thistle, they were in really poor form. They looked really poor, but all the time you're thinking, Billy Mackay's there. Like, he can score goals out of nowhere. Louis Moult's quite possibly the best striker in the division. Definitely falls into that category. I know Tony Watt scored twice on Saturday against Queen's Park. Again, I feel like there should be an asterisk against them at the moment. I don't think he holds that same kind of fear factor. I think you'd fancy your chances up against a side that's been kind of led by Tony Watt. Again, famous last words there, but I mean, we'll see. But I think if we're going into this game without Keith Watson, that's a lot of covering that someone's going to have to do. Somebody's going to end up out of position. I think it's a huge ask.
Comfortably, by far and away, the most experienced player in our squad, like without even a doubt. But just got to deal with the situation, I guess. One thing that was quite interesting was just listening to Ian Murray in the interview, just talking about Sean Byrne and obviously the impact that he's had on the squad, saying how Sean Byrne wanted to come to us as well, rejected other clubs, despite what some other podcasts might claim, and Iain Latto knows exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, he's just, again, that type of player that you want for games like this, just someone that can just go in, quietly go about bodying players and just turn over possession. And very interested. I like the wee promo of the wee what are they? Football figures. Yeah. If just those with Byrne, Body, and Tony Watt. So hopefully that'll be turn into reality and speak into existence come Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you, Ian, by the way, on Jack Hamilton. I think as much as they get a result out of that game against Ayr United, I think we were both on the same page when that team line came out, which is that you're asking a lot of those, that front line in all its numbers and however you line it up without Jack Hamilton there to be that kind of focal point. As much as he probably doesn't yet fall into that category of those number 9s I was just talking about, he's not really found his shooting boots yet. I would categorically have him back in for this one.
Can I ask a question? Do you think that with Hamilton, that he almost suffers because we're trying to play him as that sort of target man? It's almost like he's got to sort of fall back a bit to get the ball. Often it's getting like knocked down in the air. It gets knocked off to someone like a Josh Mullen, or in terms of if it goes out onto the wing, and then it's getting crossed in and he's just not there. Do you think that's a bit of a sort of difficulty in that you want him to be the target man, but also you can't really get the sort of number 9 proper full experience with that?
I think it's a bit of both. I think sometimes it's actually the other players kind of trying to decide how to use them best. And I think certainly if you go back to Airdrie, we just didn't get people close enough to him to that point. But that, I think he's good enough to do both. I think he's good enough to be a kind of a target man and an actual, kind of striking number 9, which is something that I think we've lacked for quite a long time.
See, I look at it as he's not getting chances. I mean, he's not got his shooting boots on, I think is probably the best way you can describe it.
That's fair.
Against Airdrie, he had an absolute clear-cut chance to score a goal. And he's still, getting on the end of kind of chances and they're finding him. My worry for Saturday is that I'm not convinced he's the best option because I don't know if it depends on how attacking we end up playing, but I'm not sure if we can get to him quick enough. He's not, he's not a Gregory Taddy that's going to run about and chase lost causes all afternoon. He's very much a kind of out and out striker, and he kind of holds that central role, which is great if you get boys to him. But against Airdrie, it didn't work because we were too far away from him, and he can't hold the ball up forever. I actually wonder if Gullen's a better option on Saturday, just for the energy of chasing stuff down and kind of left and right and kind of pulling people in. My worry with Jack Hamilton is that he just ends up, like I say, just too isolated.
I think that's really interesting because I think you're right. And 9 times out, no, actually, I think you're right. 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't, because I'm incredibly frustrated by Jamie Gullen when he plays up front because of how much he moves about. Yeah. I'm fed up watching him on the touchline. Like, get into the middle of the park, because you see it sometimes. He gets the ball and he looks up, and it's like, yeah, there's nobody there because that's you. You're supposed to be over there. Yeah. But actually, Dundee United, you look at their centre half pairing. You get Declan Gallagher and Kevin Holt. Declan Gallagher, I think, has to be the best centre half in the division. Kevin Holt's absolutely up there as well. How much change is, a big focal point number 9 going to get out of those two, especially if you're not getting someone else close enough to him? So actually, is it a case of more, again, not to turn into Jonathan Wilson, but more of a kind of false 9, Jamie Gullen, who is moving about so that you're not just giving these guys headers to win all day. And he is much more comfortable kind of dropping deep and going around, because you've then got, hopefully, space being created for the likes of Easton and Mullen and friend of the podcast, Callum Smith, to exploit. Because that's what I think, when it's not worked for Hamilton, it's when there's not been anybody close enough. And fundamentally, the best strikers in this division aren't going to have a great day up against 2 centre-halves if there's not anyone else close enough. And that, if you take 2 of the best centre-halves in the division, I think certainly that could be difficult for him. But that... So that, in terms of, Iain, you said you'd have Stanton in behind Hamilton if you were picking.
Yeah, I think Stanton's just in great form. I don't think you can drop him. I think he absolutely has to play, and the number 10 is his best position. He's a weird player, Stanton, because he's got the legs and the energy of a player that plays at number 8. He's like a box-to-box midfielder who can also play 6, but is also the best position at 10. It's like he's a complete midfielder for the Championship. I'm going to be totally honest. Like, he's absolutely fantastic. I'm one of his biggest fans. He's got everything. He can finish. He's got a great range of passing. His energy is unrivaled. He's an automatic starter for me just now. I think he has to play, and if that means that it's at the expense of Vaughan at the minute, for me, I would play Stanton.
I was just going to bring Vaughan.
Sorry, Christina, on you go.
Right, I was going to bring up Vaughan because I was wondering if he would get a start on Saturday or not.
So that ties into what I was actually just going to ask Iain, because I think I would start Vaughan, but I think I would start Vaughan because I'd have Stanton further back, and it's not his best position, but I think it goes to one of Ian Murray's kind of favourite sayings, which is getting your best players on the park. I think that, for me, is the best way to do it. But for you, Iain, if you've got Stanton in at the, behind the striker, are you bringing Scott Brown out of the defence and putting McGill in, or how are you kind of making that work?
I've gone for Watson's going to play.
All right, of course. Sorry, you did say that. Yeah,
I do think he will play. But yeah, if he's not, then I've kind of got here that I would move Brown back into centre half, Stanton back 1, and then Vaughan in the number 10. So yeah.
that's I think how I would go as well. But I think I said this on Sunday. Categorically, whatever I think is going to happen is never even remotely close to actually what Ian Murray does. So, and absolutely for the best. But that, so I tell you what, let's just do a quick round of predictions. So, Christina, I think you said 3-0 Rovers.
All the way. Yep.
Robbie, did you say 1-0 Rovers?
Yeah, I'll stick with the 1-0.
All right, Ian, we'll come to you. You got a prediction for this one?
1 each.
Blair?
I'm 1 each as well, actually. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I tell you, I'm going to go 2 each. Let's at least get a bit of entertainment for. What did you say we're up to now, Robbie, ticket wise?
We're just under 6,000. So Rovers have just slightly ahead of Dundee United in terms of the tickets sold. They were sitting on 2,994 and 2,834 coming from Dundee. So yeah,
I've quite enjoyed this week as well. A phrase that I never ever in my life I've heard before, but it's been said with such authority on Twitter: the tangerine pound. Never like that's a thing.
Well, the only thing we care about is the tangerine mug. Let's be honest.
That's a real YouTube exclusive as well. The punters listening in, which absolutely would be my choice. I've got no idea what we're talking about. Haven't been able to see the tangerine mug there. So in terms of that, then talking about the crowd, we did have discussion earlier in the week around about the railway stand. I think for something that managed to turn into a hot topic was actually incredibly one-sided. In the end, so the club put out a poll to season ticket holders to kind of canvass opinions on the usage of the railway stand. So it had been trialled earlier in the season as a new home for a singing section that had kind of waned a little bit. I know the Community Foundation were putting some people into that stand, but fundamentally they were saying that it's a straight choice to either keep it for that use or to hand it over to the away support and bring in an extra £8,500 if that's sold out. So 95% in favour, I think, in the end. Right decision for you, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the singing section, it's one of these things where you've got to have the buy-in for it, and I think there's nothing wrong with trying something and it doesn't work, because that's effectively what we've done at the moment. And I don't think it's a write-off of an idea. I think that it could still definitely be done in the future, but I think you've got to have the buy-in from the people that it's potentially aimed at, which I don't think, looking back, it's certainly not appeared to be the case. But again, I don't think that's a fault of the club. They've tried something new, and I think that it's always worth doing that if you want to expand. Personally, I voted for it to go to the away fans. Again, it's just going to benefit us financially, which there's nothing wrong with. Pointless having empty seats when you can get money. And again, it just lets some extra Dundee United fans having an away day as well. So, I mean, there's not really any downsides for me, other than potentially getting shithoused by their fans. But again, you've just got to accept that with the territory and not get too upset if it happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me going through the club laid out, good reasons, kind of a good bit of detail when they were asking that question. And the last bullet point on that email was that the sort of the singing section had let the club know that they were planning on being in the south stand anyway. So at that point, I thought it's a no-brainer for me.
I think it's another stroke of genius from the club, though. Like, it's another. We talk about this good feeling and the new board and the new direction we're going in. Do you know what I mean? Would last season have that been put to a poll? Not a chance. They'd have put the Dundee United fans in a heartbeat and said it was a business decision, and that would be it. I think just going to the fans and asking the question is another win. Like, do you know what I mean? It plays right into that narrative of you belong and we're in this together and all that kind of stuff. I thought really clever from the club.
Yeah, it's been a very good. The way they've kind of turned it back into a positive has been pretty impressive. I think the club should really be commended for trying the singing section. I think it was something that, like, you look at the success that the Northwest stand has got under Fairmont, and you look at the way that's flourished and kind of grown organically, and how much of an impact it has probably on Dunfermline, and like the way they won the league last year and all the players are going over. And I think the club really wanted to emulate that, but I just wonder if they've maybe tried to force the hand slightly too quickly with it. And the kind of dynamic of it being quite far away from our own supporters and stuff, it doesn't lend itself to generating that atmosphere. Like see when the South Stand's rocking and the ball feels like it's getting sucked into that goal at the end, and then having like your 300 singing fans kind of 80 yards away up on the left hand side, it just didn't quite work. But total respect to the club for giving it a shot and liaising with the guys that were meant to be going in there and stuff. And you know what, it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. Do you know what I mean? Like they've had a stab at it. It's not quite worked. It's not to say that it's dead in the water and we can't try it again. But you know what, they've had a stab at it, and yeah, I respect the club for doing it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I think we'll see it again in some shape or form. I don't think that's the singing section by any means being abandoned or anything like that. I think the club have also, kind of let it be known that they're willing to kind of back that as well, in terms of, whether it's assistance with, ethos or whatever that ends up being. I think there's a willingness to engage and to kind of make that an element of the kind of match day. And you're right, they've had a shot at this. It's not really worked out, I think, for the reasons that you've said. You really need that to be a kind of contagious thing where you've got your kind of hardcore that are making noise, and you need it to spread, and it's very difficult when it's across a corner of the park and it's further or closer to the away fans than it is to the rest of the home end. But absolutely, I think we will see it back again. I think, Robbie, your point is absolutely right. I don't think there's any losers in this scenario. I don't think anyone really. The club had sold 19 additional tickets in that section before they kind of suspended them. So I voted the same way and was impressed with the way that the club had handled it. And certainly, as you said, Blair, they could have done that differently. They could have looked at it and gone, from a commercial perspective, this is a no-brainer, so we're doing it. And fundamentally, I think 95% suggests that it was a pretty straightforward decision. But it's the going to the effort of doing that.
Can I just ask a question, actually? Christina, were you at the League Cup game in the Fife derby?
No.
No, all right. I was going to ask because I know that you obviously sit in the main stand, so I was going to check if there was a noticeable difference between the south stand and having that sort of singing section compared to whether it was like everyone in the south stand. But again, just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to every other game, and noticed that it's obviously. I feel like the atmosphere is still great. It's better than it was last season, but totally agree with the fact that it is a bit too spread out for me. I'd like it a bit closer together and more contained. And on the thing about the vote and the poll, I think a lot of people were saying, from what I saw on social media, the main bugbear was that it would then become Dundee United being the majority when it's meant to be our home game. But I just don't really see why that would even matter, because it isn't going to make a difference if you score the goals and you win. We're still going to make as much noise. So I don't really see why them having more fans would make much of a difference there. But I think that was the only other counter argument to it, really, was the fact that they would have more. But I don't see it as a big enough reason to not do it.
No, I think Robbie. I think if your totals are correct, that we'll still get slightly more Rovers fans.
Yeah,
just current sales,
just slightly. And I think it's worth calling out as well, right? Nobody's mentioned this yet. Our home support so far for the games against Cali, Queen's Park, and Morton have pretty much doubled. Nobody's saying, "Oh, look at that! What's happened with Raith?" We're probably the only team that's not been promoted that's seen a substantial rise in terms of the number of tickets sold. And I don't think the club get enough actual credit for that. We'll get credit for the social media and everything, which is richly deserved, but to get the tickets sold, I know a lot of those will be probably under 12 tickets, but that's still people bringing their families. You've got the kids potentially getting strips, you've got the catering, you've got in and about the ground 50-50 ticket. You've got all this sort of knock-on revenue that comes, and I don't think the club get enough credit for that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, sorry, Christina, when the new board came in, there was slight snippishness from some people about the kind of the social media aspect of it, and it's numbers is one thing, but the retweets sell tickets. Well, it looks like they might actually. there's obviously a lot of the teams doing well. There was good business done in the summer, but fundamentally, a lot of this good feeling that I think we're all, seeing the reflection of, is coming from the way the club presents itself to the world, which is, in 2023 comes through your social media. So you're absolutely right. I think the club do deserve credit for that. And it goes beyond just the graphics that they're putting out, because it's also now how are they communicating directly with the support, which, again, we've talked about and is a huge positive. And it's... Sorry, Blair, on you go.
No, I was going to say I would temper that slightly in the sense that the team's doing well.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the same thing.
Obviously, it's a very different beast to when I was involved with the social media. But when things were good, everything was good. Do you know what I mean? And when things were bad, it goes bad quick.
You say that, but I think if I look back to sort of, even I remember the sort of seasons where we say the season when we had like Taddy and Baird up top, when we ran them firm and close for the title. I didn't feel like we even saw like that much of a jump, or even under McKinnon. I don't know if maybe historically I'm just biased because it's recency, but like I feel like the attendance didn't jump up that much compared to those points. So
I think you are right in that sense, and I think you hit on it as well. There's a lot of kids, which I think is amazing. Like for years and years, we've underdone getting the kids in, because you get the kids in, you get them hooked, and I went in as a kid. Do you know what I mean? And I'm still going now, and I'm sure you guys are the same. Like, there's very few, I think, football fans who come into going regularly in their 20s or 30s. It's usually, they come in as a kid, they disappear when they get to that sort of teenage sort of middle bit, or going to uni or whatever they're doing, and then find their way back, kind of thing.
I don't mean to be over the top, but I think that we might need to invest in some bear traps for the front of the South Stand, given the pitch invasions. But, well, we'll see.
That's some wild overreactions to that, by the way. Like fundamentally, I understand that can't happen and all this kind of stuff, but people are really angry. It's like it is just some children. You don't need to swear at them quite so loudly.
Very intrigued as to like what the stewards are going to do if they do catch them. So like there was kind of like a Benny Hill style chase going on in the park.
There's only one of them chasing them though. The rest of them are just standing there going, "What do we do?"
You catch him, you are going to tackle an 11-year-old to the ground. Then what? You're going to arrest him? You're going to cart him off?
There was two of them in discussion that I spotted at the last home game, and it was clearly one guy's like his first day, and you could see him saying to the other one like, "You never told me there would be hundreds of children massing in front of us," and the other boy just going, "I don't know what about it, because we're not doing anything. Like, you can put your arms out. That is it. That's as much as we are doing." And rightly so.
Announcement as well. Please, please, please stay off the pitch.
Yeah, it's one of these. It's like, I don't know how you solve that. I'm glad that's not my remit to try and put measures in place. But I say there was a couple of folk near me who were really, really losing the rag. It's like it's fine. It's nobody's gonna get hurt or anything. Just maybe tone it down a little bit. But I do know, sorry, Blair, to just go back a second, I know exactly what you mean about the social media stuff, and as much as some of the slightly kind of dafter stuff and the funner stuff that they're doing is much easier to do on the back of a win than it is if you've just been tanked like 4-0. I don't imagine the comments would be quite as appreciative.
I actually love the direction it's going, because there was a few times when I was involved that we just had a group chat, and there was a load of us that kind of were all volunteers, and we all put ideas, and I'd throw in like a pretty outrageous kind of idea, and it would be, no, I don't think we should maybe do that. Let's, and the phrase that was used a lot was keep your powder dry. Just, keep your powder dry. We didn't need to do that. I was up for kind of noising up the pars or whatever, because I think you just need a wee pile-on, and if we lose, we lose. I loved roaring back. It was before I was involved. I thought it was amazing, and it backfired spectacularly.
Especially when they brought it back on the day before we lost the title on the final day.
I love that though.
As soon as it happened, you're like, what the fuck?
Love it. I honestly think that's incredible. Like just to get it out and dust it off out the cupboard and stuff was brilliant. And it's one of those things you have to have a go because it might backfire.
Aye.
I mean, but the best bit of social media the whole summer was dick extension.
Aye.
It was so obvious. Like, why would you not do it? But I'm telling you, a year before we wouldn't have done it.
Aye.
Yeah,
I did.
categorically, yeah.
To go back to the roaring back thing, though, it was the Ayr fans that reversed the video, so that it was the roaring back thing.
We went
away.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking creased at that.
Aye, I think you're right though. It's one of these things where, especially if everybody's doing it, look, it's fine. It's games of football. Somebody's gonna have to lose, but you might as well have a laugh while you're doing it like that.
I loved the Ayr United photos at the weekend. Somebody put up did you see that? The website photos on Ayr United where they're all like they look like the cone men for the 90s. Those elongated photos. And so the social media put up it was photos of Rovers players in exactly the same way. Ah, it's genius.
And that's it. And if you get scudded, you get scudded. It doesn't actually. You then get less points if you tried having a laugh in the. And the thing like that, the poster they've released, the kind of comic style poster, which in itself is incredible. Just the artwork and stuff that's and the effort that's gone into that is brilliant. But it's Tony Watt tipped on his side. So if Tony Watt scores a hat trick on Saturday, then fine, you need to eat that. I'm still more bothered about the fact he scored a hat trick than the fact that we look slightly silly in addition to the hat trick. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that front. And aye, let's hope we see a bit more of that kind of this podcast's favourite subject so far. A bit more shithousing as the season goes on.
Sounds like a segue.
It certainly does. Thank you for that, mate. Thanks for shining a light on that. That was nearly incredibly smooth. So if you did listen to episode 1, you'll remember that we kind of ran through some of our favourite kind of shithousing moments, and we had a few sent in from listeners. Oddly, all listeners called Alan somehow. When I checked back, it was at least 3 of them. Weird coincidence. But anyway, they were belters. There were some really, really good ones. But there is just one that I've got here that I'm just going to read it out in full because it's very worthwhile doing so. So this is a YouTube comment that came from Hadj, right? So, best piece of shithousing has to be Ross Matthews at League One Falkirk. Just like Robbie, I'd tweeted Ross and Regan Tumblety saying if they scored and celebrated with the drinking Falkirk tears, I'd put money towards Regan's Movember fundraiser. At the winner, I ran onto the park, hugged Ross, told him the money was sent, and then got arrested.
So, just to expand as well on this story, I'm in a group chat with Hadj, and obviously the court case rumbles on for a good few months after. It goes to court because apparently Falkirk wanted to press the highest charges possible. He gets sent to the
court.
He had to go to, I think it was a sheriff court. It might have been in Stirling. He goes all the way through, and the judge goes, "Why is this case in front of me?" and throws it out immediately. So, yeah, just straight away, just chucked out, just completely irrelevant. So, yeah, Hadj, what a legend of a human being.
Falkirk FC with ideas above their station, not for the first time, may I say.
Just better.
Yeah, didn't need a judge to tell us that bamming up Falkirk is not a crime. But I'm glad we took that just slight turn into true crime podcasting for a couple of minutes there. Anyway, so let's move on to this week's big question. So I did mention during the intro, Iain, you scored a wonder goal at Starks Park, and on the promise that this is the only time that we're going to make you talk about it, I'm going to ask you just to talk us through that goal, and then we'll get your favourite other goal that's been scored into the north end at Starks Park.
Certainly, you're too kind. I think 2012, I believe it was, or 2013, I can't remember. There was like a Live the Dream game, essentially. So it was like you could pay 50 quid for a half or £100 to play the whole game. So I was like, right, well, I'll pay 50 quid and I'll get 45 minutes. So I was with Paul Smith's team, and he threw the captain's armband at me in the dressing room and said, "Iain, you take them out." And I'm sitting there all teary-eyed, and it was honestly magic. I'd actually come off at half time. I'd played my 45 minutes, and John Greer of this parish was kind of on the bench beside me. the other team scored, and whilst the referee wasn't looking, and I've never said this before, John Greer pushed me back onto the park when I shouldn't have been back on the park. And that's when the goal was scored. So we did score that goal with 12 players on the park, but there we go. It's, you could sue me. Let's replay the game. So the goal itself, Graham Kilgour has actually got the ball with some electric wing play down the right-hand side, may I say. Like a whip it. He goes down and he plays it to Bill Garnick, who whips the ball in. It kind of gets headed out at the far post to the far side. Andy Sutherland, one of my pals, collects the ball and plays it back in. It gets headed back out, and John McGlynn is pointing at me because there's nobody near me at the edge of the box. And
as we now know why.
Well, yeah, exactly, because there was nobody there to mark me.
Did John shout, "Can you count?" at any point? Sorry, I had to put it in there.
Just as it dropped in. The ball just drops perfectly onto my right foot, and I lashed it straight in the net without a bounce. It was fucking excellent, I'm not going to lie.
It is an incredible goal. It will be on the Twitter after this because everybody needs to see this. It really is. It's an unbelievable strike.
See, before we move on to our best North Stand goals, can I just mention as well, I think it was John Greer. I don't know if anyone else went to Davy McGurn's testimonial.
I think I know exactly what you're about to say.
John Greer just stops caring at one point and he just decides to run on the pitch and start interviewing folk like, how are you getting on? You struggling today?
He asked Alan Walker if he'd eaten all the pies because he'd put a bit of weight on in the middle of the game while it's still playing.
I think the recurring theme of this podcast is that I am far too much of a shitebag, but I wouldn't be having a dig at Alan Walker during the game of football either. He's a very angry man.
Very angry.
Right, Iain, setting aside your own incredible strike, what's your favourite other goal that you've seen into that end?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for Joe Cardle against St Johnstone in the Scottish Cup quarter-final on the 8th of March in 2014. The ball kind of goes up to Gordon Smith, and he takes the ball in and holds off Stephen Anderson, who we, of course, had quite a successful loan spell with us. He holds it up and lays it back off to Cardle. Cardle's probably 10 yards in front of the centre circle in the North Stand half. He kind of drops the left shoulder and then cuts to the right-hand side, as he so often did, and kind of runs away from James Dunn. And then he kind of progresses forward maybe 5 or 10 yards to the right and then hits this shot. It's an arrow. It lasers in off the far post. Goalie, absolutely no chance. And then he's so delighted, he runs away and falls on his arse during the celebration. It's such a good strike. I was watching it back kind of from a few different angles and stuff. Quite incredible that it's nearly 10 years ago that happened. I was watching it back, and obviously we had the grass park at the time. So just as Cardle goes to hit the ball, it pops up like a few centimetres, and just the way that it comes up off the turf allows Cardle to get such a clean hit on the ball. Like it's such a clean strike. It's almost like a kind of volley because it's popped up off the ground. It's a sweet strike, and it lasers in off the far post. It's a super goal. St Johnstone went on to win the cup. They won the game 3-1. That was our equaliser. They went on to win 3-1. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was at the time where we were going through that wee weird spell where everybody that beat us went on to win the cup.
Yeah, that's
fucking bizarre. Like I'm sure it was like
Inverness,
St Johnstone, Hibs, and Celtic. I think 4 years in a row. Bizarre.
Yeah, really strange.
But
it's also how you know the game was televised because Joe Cardle scored a good goal.
Absolutely.
Only did it when it was televised.
He turned it on, Super Joe. I really liked Cardle even he was with us. Like, obviously, his affiliation to Dunfermline is undoubted. He's a Pars legend. Like, but I just think he had that kind of wee spark of quality in a squad that was really kind of lacking it at that time. We're like applauding our way to a 7th place finish in the championship under Grant Murray, but I felt like he was the one who like could light up a game and could really give you that wee touch of quality. I thought he was excellent.
The fact we took him on as they went into administration was even sweeter.
Or some of that.
Yeah, definitely. He's got the assist for possibly my favourite Rovers goal of all time, which is Grant Anderson's backwards header at Easter Road. But that will be my answer to a different question on a different day. Christina, let's come to you next for your favourite goal at the away end.
So the only person I had in mind was Aidan Connolly. I feel like when I think of Aidan Connolly, I feel like that's where he scores all the time, is into the North Stand. I just see him like scoring belters from like really, really far range. So I had two in mind. One was against East Fife. That was a cup game. But then I remembered about the one with near the South. I actually thought that was longer ago than it was. I think it was only 2022, I think it was. And he scored an absolute belter. But I just always associate him with that area and just scoring down there.
That's that.
So hopefully another one on Saturday would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll see him back on Saturday. Actually, Ian Murray, I think, saying today that he's been desperate to give him minutes, but the games have been too tight recently, which I kind of wondered about. Like Airdrie was quite tight, but we were getting beat. But I couldn't remember the order he'd put his subs on then. I don't know if he just ran out of bodies or not. But
He chucked 3 on at once, didn't he? Airdrie.
Aye.
He went to front 3.
But that aye, definitely. Aye, it was Hamilton get injured and he put 3 on at once. But I definitely, I think Aidan Connolly, he's in the same mould as a lot of those other attacking players that we've got, but actually the quality that he's got is excellent. I think it's almost a shame that him and Josh Mullen are in exactly that same position, because they'd be if you could mirror image either one of them, I think that would give you two very good wide options. As opposed, it's almost like we've got our two kind of out and out wingers are both on the right hand side, and then you've got like your likes of Callum Smith and Dylan Easton, who are kind of more inside forwards, I suppose, coming off the other side. But
maybe Aidan might be a sub on Saturday then, potentially.
I certainly hope so. I hope we'll see him.
Ex-Dundee United player as well.
Yeah, that's true. Sam Stanton as well.
Aye.
Oh,
and Keith Watson.
I hope we'll see him back. I think he's got a lot of quality. I think he was the one that I'd sort of almost forgotten about when Ethan Ross went out on loan. But you think, you've still got Aidan Connolly to come in, then it definitely makes sense. It's so much quality in those forward areas. But definitely coming in on that left foot and just arrowing it into the far corner. Excellent goals at Aidan Connolly. As you say, at that far end, he gets his assists at the south end and he saves his goals for the north.
I actually watched them both back, and they're very similar. The way he scores them every time is very similar.
What was it when Dario Zanata went through that phase where he just scored the same goal every week for like 4 weeks on the bounce?
Some boy.
Yeah, it's like, just stop showing him onto that foot. And then they did stop showing him onto that foot and he never kicked a ball again the rest of the season.
He was in that the South game as well, Dario Zanata, when I was
he did.
Quite similar.
Okay, Blair, let's come to you for yours, please.
So I've been obviously we chatted about this kind of through the week to plan ahead, and I'm going to be quite greedy. I've got 3 because I couldn't narrow it down. So different eras though is the big thing for me. So the first one, as a young kid watching Raith Rovers in the UEFA Cup, and when I remember this goal, it was about 60 yards out, cannoned in off the bar. It was amazing, but it was Stevie McInnesby's free kick against Gotu in the first game. Still a beautiful free kick, but it was only about 20 yards out. But as a young boy in the railway stand, it was a thing of beauty. The second one is so I grew up playing Football Manager, and there was a thing about signing foreigners, like having that little FR, was it FRG, I think it was, next to the game. And when Raith signed Soren Andersen, who came in, and he scored, it was his home debut against Celtic. So the ball breaks up the right. I think it was Kevin Twaddle crosses it in, and Soren Andersen does the kind of through the legs clip of the heel into the bottom corner to go 1-0 up against Celtic. We got beat 2 or 3-1, I think, that day. That was like George Cadet and Pierre Van Hooijdonk and stuff in their team. But yeah, Soren Andersen, that was like big time. We had foreigners in our team. And then we beat the Pars 5-1, so I had to pick one of them. Jamie Gullen's last one, just a death nail. It was, a thing of beauty up at that North Stand.
The scary thing was that could have been 6 because Tate hit the post with an absolute belter as well, just with like minutes to go. And honestly, I cannot imagine how good that would have been if that stadium had been full. Like, it just
No.
would have been
I
out
was
of this
there.
world.
It was surreal.
Aye.
Totally surreal.
So I had just moved into my house in Dunfermline at the time, and it was a beautiful summer's evening. I had the doors open out the back, roaring at the telly at every goal, and then the next day putting the bins out. The next door neighbour and his wee boy have got Dunfermline tops on. I thought, oh fuck,
Yes.
what have I done? Thankfully they're lovely. We got on really well, but yeah, it was a tense moment.
Just to say though, Blair, I do miss that sort of early 2000s from time. I have a pankering for this periods where you would just go to Rovers and you'd rock up on a Saturday, and obviously this was well before like social media, and there would just be a random new foreign name on the team sheet, and aye, that was a cracking
It
period.
was brilliant. We've not really had the kind of mystical foreign players for a while. Like we've had a few kind of players coming in, but they're always on loan from a Premier League team kind of coming down. But the days of Nacho Novo rocking up at Starks Park, like no one's heard of him. And
I mean, like Didier Agat, like a player like that, just someone just walks in and you're like, or even Paquito. Paquito's a great example. Like came from La Liga to Rovers, and you're just thinking, what the fuck?
John McGlynn tried to keep that going, and it just never ever worked for him. You'd get Javier Amaya and Juan Guerrero, and you get 60 minutes a go out of these guys.
Just everyone was like, "Oh, get the Spaniard on with Guerrero," and then he got subbed off after being subbed on against Ayr.
Yeah,
and that was it.
He won us the league that year. He won us the league because that was when John McGlynn didn't play 4-4-2 because he had to take him off, and he went and he played 4-3-3, and we won the league because of it.
Aye, fair.
That's it. Remember that Javier Amaya? It's like, oh, look how skinny he is. Like he must be so good if he's getting to play football and he's that skinny and wearing boots that bright, and dreadful, absolutely, just horrendous. Right, Robbie, I'm going to jump in. I'll let you go last. So for this one, I have gone for an equalising goal in a game at the end of the first quarter of a season, which you wouldn't think would be particularly important, but it was Danny Armstrong's equalising free kick against Falkirk in the notorious COVID season. So at the time, you think, all right, you're turning a loss into a draw. That's fine. But fundamentally, for a season that ended on a points per game basis, really quite an important one. I don't actually know quite what it would have worked out to be because I don't support Falkirk, so I've not worked it out. But I'm sure it was important, and it's an incredible free kick as well. And it's one of those that looks all the better because Cammy Bell does get a hand to it. Like if it just goes straight in, it's still a good free kick. But the fact that the keeper's got there and still can't get a strong enough wrist behind it, right into that postage stamp corner. It really is. It's had a brilliant free kick.
Armstrong's first game back as well, wasn't it? He went to Ross County.
Aye.
And then he came back, and that was him back.
I remember going absolutely ballistic at that goal. And my mate, who'd only just recently started going to Rovers games at that point, it's like, why are you going so mental? Like, it's just, and I was like, nah, you really need to understand. And then by the end of the season, like looking back, you're like, aye, exactly.
The reason I went mental at that game was because Danny Armstrong came on at half time for Dave Mackay, who John McGlynn had finally decided to stop playing as a wing back. Which, nothing against Dave Mackay, he's a cracking centre half for kind of League One level at least. Not a wing back, never a wing back. Stop playing him as a wing back. So he get hooked at half time because we were 2-0 down. Should have been 3-0 down, and I can't remember who got the first now, but yeah, that free kick, the equaliser, is an absolute belter.
It was Michael Miller.
Oh, so it was.
There's a throwback to the past.
Yeah, he's another one that a bit like Kieran McDonald. That when he left, you think he looks pretty decent. He'll make it at this level, and then just hasn't been able to. But Dave Mackay wouldn't have scored that free kick. I'll tell you that much. Right, Robbie. How about yours then? Favourite goal into the North Stand.
I'm going to take inspiration from Blair and go for three of them. So the first one was one.
I'm keeping a list here, and I'm going to have to turn over the page.
It's just going to be a compilation of goals into one stand. Like, what the fuck's that about? So firstly, Rory McEwen against Morton. Just that was the Ray McKinnon season, and just the way that he hits it. I don't even know if he makes like a proper connection or it takes a deflection, but he sort of hits it and falls over. So he falls on his arse and his back's to the goal. And then you see him as he's standing up, he turns turns around almost to sort of see what's going on in front of him because he thinks, oh, I need to get back for a goal kick. But it's flown right into the net. So he just starts celebrating, just pointing at his name on the back of his shirt, and you're just, Rory McEwen just seems a really lovely guy. Just a lot of interaction in terms of Twitter. He went over to New Zealand for a bit, and now he's back playing for, I think, Crusaders in Northern Ireland, and he was playing against Rosenborg in the Champions League, which was just a really strange thing to see, sort of the team sheet, and you're like, oh, that's what you're up to nowadays. And I think he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. So that's number one. Number two, only because I got into a discussion about it, because Ryan Oney came up on Twitter and mentioning to big Armand that his goal against Airdrie, which Armand Oney cannot remember in the League Cup, but it was
but you can.
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
It was a midweek League Cup game back when it was like there was obviously no group stages at that point. Airdrie were the division above us, and this was when we were sort of Gordon Dalziel period, so obviously sort of just the season after sort of our first season back in the old Division 2. And we'd signed Armand Oney, and obviously big unit of a forward, and what a hit that was. He just absolutely levers it, volley, edge of the box. And you genuinely thought the goalposts were going to come out. It was just hit that hard. Like, he just absolutely rocket of a hit. So that would be number two. Number three is actually not even a Rovers goal. It's just from a sheer appreciation point. A player, you know what it's like when you follow sort of the lower leagues and you just get a bit of an appreciation for overall class players that you think probably could make it at a higher level if they just had a bit of extra sort of physique or just pace about them. And that's Ross Forbes. Don't know if you guys remember this.
Ross Forbes had far too much physique. That was his problem.
Yeah, well, that's very true. But his hit against Robbie Thompson, and Robbie Thompson probably won't want to be reminded of this because he was a bit off his line to say the least. But he was playing for Dumbarton at the time, and he must have been about 40 yards out, and he just lifts it over him. He's just caught him off his line. It's like a first, like, two touch maybe, and just lifts it straight over him. But just Ross Forbes is one of those players where you do just think if he'd just been a fitter player, he could have gone all the way. But again, that's unfortunately the curse of it.
You're absolutely right. That is an incredible goal. I knew as soon as you said it was against the Rovers, that's going to be that Ross Forbes one. But categorically for me, that's a goalkeeping error. Well, that just is fundamental. Absolutely is.
We've absolutely slaughtered our goalkeepers tonight, by the way. Has anyone got anything bad to say about Andy McNeil? Just get out of the way. And we're talking about the new Andy McNeil. We've got plenty to say about the old Andy McNeil.
Yeah. I don't enjoy his name. That's my main criticism of Andy McNeil. Excellent. Thank you very much for those memories of about 400 different goals into the away end. But there will be others, and we'd like to hear from you as well. So absolutely send in your favourite North Stand goals as well. So you can tweet those to us. You can put them in the YouTube comments, like Hadj sent us that one last week. So I think that will bring us to a close for this evening's Dundee United preview and extended North Stand goal chat. So you can absolutely follow the podcast on Twitter. That is at ONNN podcast. I'm getting better at saying that. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. That is at Oh No 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 podcast. Please also follow the excellent David Latto, who provides the intro and the outro music. He's at David Latto on Twitter. Hopefully he's got some new music coming soon. Go and see him if he's gigging near you as well. But on behalf of everybody here, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who listened to that first episode. We got loads and loads of feedback. Most of it was pretty positive, and it does mean a lot to us. So thank you again for listening. If you're at the game on Saturday and the people that you're with haven't heard the podcast yet, please send them in our direction. But that is everything from me. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll let the rest of you say goodbye as well.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I'm waving at the podcast.
Thanks for listening.